I'm Jake.
I'm Tom.
We are Velocities of Music. On this podcast, Tom and I discuss a convoy of topics pertaining to modern music, including artist deep dives and monthly, sometimes more than monthly, and annual new music wrap-ups. Today, Tom, it's been a while.
It has.
It's been a little while. I think we should give an update what's going on in our lives and talk
crazy
about
stuff.
We often go to the local 8035 music festival in Des Moines. It's held at the beginning of July every year, and I didn't get to go this year for reasons we will explain.
Yeah.
And Tom, you went.
I did. I represented.
And I want to hear all about it because I actually haven't talked to you much about it yet.
No.
We've saved it for the podcast.
Yes.
Before we get started, you can help support Velocities of Music. Subscribe to Velocities of Music on your favorite podcasting device to automatically get our latest podcast episode sent to your device for your listening pleasure. Want to help Velocities of Music grow? You can. Velocities of Music was founded on the idea of creating an enriching discussion about modern music. Please share Velocities of Music with the music enthusiasts in your life. Together, we can move music discussion forward. So, Tom, I think the last podcast we did was the May wrap-up.
Yeah, that's right.
That's a long time ago. I'm going through a quarter midlife crisis right now.
Yeah,
I am. I'm turning 30 this weekend.
God, that's crazy.
I know, right?
Yeah.
I'm an old man now. And some changes are happening in my life because, and your life too.
Yeah.
So for the last 5 years, Tom and I have worked at the same company here based in Ames, Iowa. Tom, you have a new job.
I do. Yep. My last day at our job that we worked at together for so many years, Jake, was a couple weeks ago. I've been doing a lot of traveling this month, so our schedules have not lined up. I actually counted, Jake, and in the month of July, there have been, I think, a total of 8 days where I have not been out of town.
Wow.
It's pretty crazy, and I start a new job next week.
Nice.
Yeah.
What have you been doing in between jobs? That's crazy. You got 3 weeks off.
I've been working
traveling, obviously.
I've been traveling.
Right.
I've been working on some other personal projects. I'm writing a book. I also just a couple days ago got my vinyl copies of Dystopian Blues, so I'll throw a plug in for that. I'll get those up and for sale on my Bandcamp page, and also any of you who contributed to the Kickstarter campaign for that, you can expect those to be in the mail soon.
Right. So
pretty pumped.
Backstory: back in January, Tom, to I wouldn't say promote, but to help get out some sort of material around or to get interest
as a way to give back to the people who've supported me to create kind of a fun campaign around it.
I thought it was a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
I thought it was a brilliant idea, and since I contributed to the campaign, I have Dystopian Blues on vinyl.
Yeah,
it's my latest vinyl.
Yeah,
I'm getting up there. I'm almost to 150. Man.
Nice. All right,
6-7 months now. So our vinyl deals is keeping me afloat.
They're keeping you plugged in.
So, Tom, while you have left your position, I've also changed positions, and my change of position comes with my family and I moving to Phoenix, Arizona. I know, right? So I've just got to admit that, selling your house and moving across the country is not something that really affords you a lot of time to listen to. I think in June we had 47.
Oh my gosh, it was a huge month.
47 albums on the list for June, and I'm almost through June and getting started on July. And there's a number of key albums in there that we definitely want to share with you guys. But there's just no way to do that in a timely manner right now. So what I think Tom and I have discussed we're going to do over the next month, I'm going to be really in the thick of it from a moving perspective, packaging all my things, and I need to figure out how to transport vinyl. And I am grossly concerned about heat. Yeah. I don't want to melt my wax.
Yeah.
I don't want that to happen.
Listen, this is a legitimate concern. So anyone listening, if you want to throw us a message or something, Jake is open to suggestions at this point.
So this podcast, we're winging it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So here's my conundrum. And let me tell you about this. So I drive a RAV4. Okay. My RAV4s are not large vehicles. So I got a RAV4 that will make the trip, and I have this beater 2003 Toyota Sienna minivan that we use as just, getting around town, taking the kids to the pool, that sort of thing. So we're not taking the beater van with us. That's going to stay in Ames.
Yeah,
it was made for Ames. It's going to stay here.
Yeah.
But so I'm going to take one car down. I don't know how I'm going to get down there, right? So we have two kids. So my wife and I have two kids and two Siberian Huskies who are going to move to a city that was literally built on the surface of the sun. And then a very fat, very old cat named Izzy Gillespie.
Yeah.
And all of us are going to be in this RAV4. So I'm going to have two dogs in the back, two kids in the back seat. The cat's going to be who knows where, like hopefully not under the pedal, like killing us all.
That'll be the game of the trip. Where's
like,
the cat?
I don't know what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to have to like get a hitch and get a U-Haul and carry it. But I don't want to put, like, I'm not going to, like, I'm not giving movers my records.
Yeah.
I'm not going to put them in a U-Haul. I don't know what to do. So I'm thinking that what I'm going to try to do, and I'm open to some tips and suggestions for anyone who's done this before, because I mean, it's still hot down in Arizona right now. It's like 110, 114 degrees. Right. It's been really hot here. I wouldn't want to drive around Iowa right now.
No.
So what I think I'm going to do is get totes from like Walmart or something, and then put the records, try to fit the records into a few totes, wrap them in like a blanket in the tote, and then I'm gonna ask that, you know, I'm hoping like my dad will drive down at some point in time. It's a 3-day drive from Iowa.
Yeah, no kidding.
And then just like keep them in the cab of his truck, you know, like I don't know what else to do. A pay to ship them.
Yeah, that doesn't sound
vinyl
good.
And moving were two things that were not meant to go together.
No. So do they allow you to rent refrigerated U-Hauls? That's the. I mean,
you can do whatever you need to do for the right price.
Right,
it's all about how much money you want to sink into
true.
it.
Yeah.
I'd rather spend that money on new vinyl.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. I got a lot to catch up to do. Have you crossed 700 yet?
I don't know.
I think you're getting close.
Probably.
I think you're getting close.
But I can just imagine you calculating the cost of shipping your vinyl, and you're like, oh, that adds like $1 or $2 per record to each record, and now it's not a good deal anymore.
Well, I have a strict budget, right? I have a strict budget, right? Like
that's what it's all about.
I haven't had the luck you've had at record stores. Maybe that's because I'm still noob, but our vinyl deals.
We've had some pretty terrible record ventures. We've had some pretty successful ones, but like there's been a few we've been on, man, where I'm just like, God, we cannot find anything good.
It's because it's peak vinyl right now, man. Like these record stores know what they have, and everyone wants that record buying experience of going to a dusty old record store and finding a gem. They know what they have, so that they price everything up, and you know, you're gonna find like an old repress of the White Album for $28. That was the last straw when I saw that. Like when I bought that, because I thought I had something more special than what it ended up being. I was like, you know what? Like I'm better off if I'm just buying new. And so our vinyl deals, you know, I budget myself $15 a week, something like that. And if I find an album that's on my short list, I'm gonna just jump at it.
Yeah, for sure.
And sometimes I don't. Sometimes I don't find it. You know,
people could argue that maybe you're spending money you wouldn't be spending, but in the same time, if those are albums you want, then it's good to get them when they're at a good price. I mean, if you're gonna buy them eventually,
if they're significantly under the median price listed for a used copy on Discogs, I'm okay.
Yeah,
like to me, there's built-in equity there.
Right,
you know?
There you go.
You know?
It's all about the equity.
I'm just trying to sell myself. I'm just trying to rationalize this out here, right?
Yeah.
So anyways, this is my conundrum. I have about 3-4 weeks here to figure this out. So we're gonna move down to the Phoenix area, East Valley, Phoenix, in early September. And so after that, we got to move in, you know, start going to the Phoenix or the office we have in Scottsdale, and somehow get settled in and start this podcast back up.
Yeah, figure it out.
So, you know, Tom and I are working on the details and logistics of how to do a podcast across the country. Lots of people do this.
Yeah, they do.
So I know it can be done. I know that we'll get it set up. It's just going to take a little time as we go through this transition period. So what we're trying to do here is Tom is keeping up on all the latest albums. And I'm trying to listen to at least the highlights. I'm not going through every single one like I try to do this month. And then I think what we're going to do is, you know, once we get back on, which I'm shooting for like end of September, early October, to be able to give like an update. Here's the best and the worst of the last 3 months.
It might have to trim it a bit.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But that's how it'll go. But we're still keeping up. We're still got our list going. We're still listening through stuff. But what we end up giving to you guys might be a little bit more abbreviated than we typically would do. But we got to just roll with it. You know, you gotta roll with the chaos.
Roll with the changes.
You know,
keep on rolling.
Yeah. You know, one easier solution, Jake, might be that we could just stop.
Yeah.
You know?
No. We tried that once.
I mean, stop being friends.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I can't.
Are you breaking up with me?
I can't quit you.
I know you can't.
But hey, at least if we're across the country, we don't have to smell each other.
Right.
While we're recording.
That's a plus. That's a plus. And actually, it's actually going to become more convenient for us to do the podcast.
Yeah, I think once we settle into it, yeah.
Right, because we'll record it like on a weeknight, which we typically do now anyways.
Yeah.
But like right now, you still live like a town away. Like you're still 15 mile or 20 mile.
Yeah.
Like it's like a 25
you live on
minute
the east side of Ames, so it's a good 25 to 30 minute drive.
It's a 25 minute drive. And I mean I speed, so so I mean like it will be easier because I'll just be able to sit down in my office and and flip on the microphone and we'll be able to start the podcast.
Yeah.
Plus I'm going to have a commute, so I'll be able to listen to some albums.
Yeah, the commute is good pre-planned time to listen to music, to catch up on stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
A 10 to 15 commute versus a 15-minute commute versus like a 25 to 35-minute commute.
Yeah.
Wholly different experience.
More.
I mean, I'm going to be able to knock off 2 albums a day.
Uh-huh.
So I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
I think it'll open up the doors. So in our time off here, have you been listening to anything interesting? Besides the new records?
I've been trying to keep up on new records. I've been trying to listen to my record collection more as I've been home, getting through some stuff that I hadn't been listening to too much.
Now, do you listen to all of your records like right when you get them?
No.
Oh.
You already called me out on that.
Did I?
Yeah, you did. No, I'm more. When I see a good deal, I'm going to get it. And sometimes that means I don't listen to an album for months or even a year or two after I get it. But to me, it's all about finding a good deal and having that record be available to you when you want to listen to it, So if it's been a long time, that's fine. But if I can look at something and say, hey, I'm in the mood to listen to this now, and I'm glad that it was available when the mood struck me, that's what it's all about. Yeah, so I end up back listening to a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I don't mean to be too critical on.
You make a great point though. I mean and I've heard people say. I mean everyone collects and listens differently, but I definitely want to listen to my records more than I do, and I think I'll get the opportunity because my new job, I'll be working from home primarily, so I can maybe just sit in my living room on my computer and put my records on.
Yeah, I bet you're going to do that all the time.
I probably will.
I bet you also start buying more records.
Probably. If the opportunity comes up, yeah.
Yeah, I'm the type of guy I got to listen to my records before I actually file them away alphabetically, chronologically.
It's a good way. You get closer to them that way. My collection's such a cluster. Sometimes I don't even know what I have, you know?
Right.
And I totally put that on myself.
Oh, I have a process, of course. Mm-hmm. I have my spreadsheet, and then I have my little book, and then I have, an alphabetized list. So I have to listen to the album, and then I file it away, and then at some point I'll clean it. Spin Clean. Have you used your Spin Clean yet?
No, I haven't even used my Spin Clean yet.
I
got it for my birthday, which was last month, and once again, like I haven't, like I've kind of been around on and off between trips, but I haven't thought to really. That's a thing I want to do when I can really start the whole journey of going through my record collection, and then I think once I settle into this new job, that'll afford me that.
Yeah, I find that cleaning records is a really nerdy and very rewarding experience because you get to. It kind of speaks to why we collect records in the first place. It's a very tactile experience. You're taking the record out of its sleeve. You're looking at it, examining it. You're looking at the artwork and examining it, and then you're making sure that it's like not gonna get scratched, and it's gonna. And then once you actually clean it, it comes out looking like a new record, assuming it's not like super beat up. It just shines, and you can see all the grooves. It's very, very awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm looking forward to it.
Diving into 8035?
Yeah, let's do it.
Tell me about 8035.
Okay, so give you a little bit of background on the festival itself. 8035 is a music festival that's run here in Des Moines, Iowa, put on by the Des Moines Music Coalition, and this is the 10th anniversary. 10th anniversary. It's crazy, Jake, I haven't been to every 8035. I think of the 10... I've probably been to 6 or 7 of them. Mm-hmm. There are a few that I missed, but, they always do a great job, of course, since Des Moines is, as far as cities go, not too large of a city, but it's certainly the largest city in Iowa. So they do a good job of bringing in bands that will accommodate the space and the population of Des Moines. I remember, this being the 10th anniversary, the very first 8035 Music Festival was the Flaming Lips, and the Roots were headliners. Mm-hmm. And I remember seeing the Flaming Lips there, and it was just awesome. And it was so cool to see this all come together right smack in the middle of downtown Des Moines. And they've really kept that up. I feel like the festival has grown in some ways, but grown in the right ways. I don't Sure. like it when festivals and really events or organizations of any kind try to just grow for the sake of growth without any kind of goal. I think that the folks who put this event on really know what Des Moines can accommodate and what the scene looks like. So this year, the headliners were the Shins and Mgmt. Both bands that I like. I was excited to see. I thought they were good headliners.
Right.
So we went down there, and a little bit more, too, on how this festival is organized. One of my favorite things about it is there's 3 stages. They're kind of linear. On 2 sides, the far stages, you have the Nationwide stage and the Come and Go stage, which are both free stages.
Whoa. Come and Go?
Come and Go.
That sounds X-rated.
Oh yeah. Oh, maybe I should give that background. Yes, it's a convenience store, gas station chain here.
And they pump you up.
I mean, I think it's self-service now.
Oh.
But anyway, and then in the middle you have the main stage, which is sponsored by Hy-Vee, and that's the stage that you have to pay to get in and see. But they do a great job with the scheduling. They do. I think it's just cool that they have free stages available for people who don't want to pay for the main stage. And they usually still get some good national touring acts on those free stages, but with a good mix of some local favorites and some up-and-coming artists from the Iowa scene. So it's a really good kind of mix of promoting local while also bringing in some national acts and just getting everyone together for a good time. So I'll go ahead and dive in to what we saw at 8035 here, Jake.
Sweet.
At 8035, I was not able to catch all of the artists, but I will highlight the ones that I was able to catch.
Quitter.
So on Friday, July 7th, at the Hy-Vee main stage, we had Elephant Revival. Let the fires burn tonight. Let the jugs of wine get drunk. Which is a very organic sounding folk group, a lot of instruments thrown in there. I mean, when I walk into the show and they've already started playing and I see someone playing a washboard, that's how you know it's legit. And one thing that really stuck out to me about Elephant Revival, though, is they had a good variety of kind of ballad-esque down-tempo tracks,
nice,
as well as some really good folksy upbeat ones. But one thing with folk anymore, there's really 2 main kind of aspects I would break this into. You got the songwriting and you got the performance. And Elephant Revival is a band that I wasn't overly familiar with. I did really like some of the songs that I heard. They stuck out to me. But more than anything, God, the performances were spot on. They had folks playing, strings, violins and cellos. I mentioned the washboard. But in particular, the vocals and the vocal harmonies with everyone in the group singing together, working together, hopping between instruments. I was really impressed by that.
How was their stage show?
Their stage show was, to me, not overly energetic, but I feel like that's made up for by the variety that they bring in with the instrumentation. Right. When between songs, people are moving around and picking up new instruments, and you kind of get excited for, what's this going to bring to the show?
Do they have an elephant on stage? It was just sleeping the whole time? They're trying to wake it up?
It was dead. They're trying to revive it.
Oh. That's dark.
No, there's no elephant involved. I don't know where the name comes from. I don't know that much about him, but that's how it is. So after Elephant Revival, we went to the Come and Go stage and saw the Suburbs. Which is not to be confused with Arcade Fire, when everyone thought that their name was the Suburbs after they won Grammy for Album of the Year.
Side note, I've been super into that album lately.
Really?
Since that's where I'm moving to.
Oh, there you go. That's
sprawl,
basically
man.
Your life.
Yeah.
Can't get away from it. The Suburbs are a band from Minnesota, from the Minneapolis area, who have actually been around since like the 80s. They just put out a new album this year, not too long ago. So these are seasoned musicians. And this was one of my favorite performances of the festival. They were on one of the smaller stages, but they drew a good crowd, had a lot of energy. You could tell they've been playing for a long time. They were tight. And their sound is very, I mentioned they've been around since the 80s, and it very much evokes this kind of new wave aesthetic. There was keyboards, there was nice background vocals, guitar and bass focus, but then also a good horn section with some saxophone and trumpet, adding not quite in like a ska mentality, but like I said, more of kind of an early new wave mentality. So they were really good, put on a really energetic show. I would recommend them anytime. All right, Jake, so we'll move on from the Suburbs to the next band that we saw also on the Come and Go stage. And now we're starting to dive into really, really ridiculous band name territory.
Okay.
So I'm going to say this band, I want you to guess what kind of music they play, because I'm willing to bet you hadn't listened to them.
Okay.
This band is called Pigeons Playing Ping Pong.
Oh, it's obviously goth rock.
It's not.
Oh, goth rap, obviously.
Goth rap. Is that a thing? I want to hear it.
It is now.
All right.
Yeah, that's your new career. Album 5.
So, Pigeons Playing Ping Pong. Which, wow, it's even just irritating to say. They were a jam band. I would classify them as a jam band.
8035 always has a good.
They got to. It attracts the festival folks, But I'll give them this. They were more of a rock kind of upbeat funk jam band, not like those jam bands you see that have like 9 people. They've got 2 dueling drummers and like 3 people playing different organ parts or something. That's not these guys. This was a pretty straightforward lineup, just like 4 guys, guitar, bass, drums, singing. But they definitely had the extended solo sections, all that kind of thing. And people were really digging them. I listened to their first few tracks and I wasn't digging it that much. It's not really my scene. But one thing I gotta say, man, I don't understand how people can go to festivals and get behind bands like Pigeons Playing Ping Pong, and then they just go and they shit all over bands like the Spin Doctors. Mm-hmm. That's what they sounded the most like to me, is the Spin Doctors, in the little bit that I heard of them.
With a way more interesting name. Pigeons Playing Ping Pong.
Right. So, they were all very good at their instruments, as you would expect, had a really fun vibe. But not exactly my cup of tea. So
again, great opportunity for a pretty memorable stage show. If they would actually had some sort of a ping pong match going on,
if they had with pigeons,
no, yeah, you could dress up in a pigeon suit. I mean, if you've seen John Oliver recently, there's pigeon suits available. You can find them and then have 2 guys in pigeon suits.
That really is a missed opportunity.
It's a huge missed opportunity. Next year.
So after that, we went to the main stage and saw Charles Bradley and his Extraordinaires. If you recall, Charles Bradley's album Changes from last year, kind of another good step in the revival of old school soul.
But now I see what you've been pushing. What you pushing on me?
Charles Bradley, the guy's in his 70s. He was just diagnosed with like stomach cancer.
Ooh.
And he came out and he rocked it, man. He comes out in this shiny gold outfit, looking all like James Brown, pulling some James Brown moves. He's doing like outfit changes in the middle of the show, taking clothes off, just belting it, just great old school soul. And it was definitely one of the most memorable and best performances of the entire festival, because this guy is the real deal. Great voice, great backing band, and a sound that just, first off, I wish would come back even more, but second, really fits the live festival kind of environment.
Yeah.
So I was really pleased with that one. After that, we went and saw Bully. Who is a band that's a female-fronted rock band that I would say, they play kind of grunge-ish, modern indie rock, definitely throwing back to the early 90s bands like, Nirvana and, Nirvana is probably the biggest one, not as much like Alice in Chains kind of stuff, but just good rock stuff, and they really brought it. I like that sound is really coming back into style for modern rock, a little more guitar focused. That's something that I notice about the festival in general, actually, where you think back to around 10 years ago, Jake, when we were starting Velocities in music and starting to talk about music more and new music, things were really very 80s-esque. People were incorporating a lot more keyboards and electronic percussion into sounds. And I feel like there's definitely been a shift. It's like we're reliving those 2 decades again in succession, the 80s and 90s. I feel like there's much more return to just gritty guitar bands. I saw a lot of that at the festival, and in general, that seems to mirror a lot of stuff that's been coming out these days. But Bully, really good band. If you haven't checked them out, they just came out with their first album a couple of years ago. They're a fairly new band. But they have some really good stuff. So then really from there, I will call out, we went and saw Radio Moscow for a little bit, who is a band we're familiar with. We knew some folks who used to be in that band, Jake. Our friend Zach Anderson and Corey Berry, who we went to high school with, used to be in that band. I still go and see them when I can just to see Parker shred it, because the guy, he's a good kind of blues, psychedelic rock guitarist. Still can rip a good solo. They're a band that doesn't really excite me too much, but they've been touring and playing regularly for a long ass time, and as just kind of the power trio, keeping psychedelic rock moving, they're good at what they do. So then, of course, the creme de la creme of the evening was Mgmt on the main stage, and Mgmt, musically, they performed spot on. Really great show, great job of incorporating old and new stuff. It's interesting because their debut album came out 10 years ago now,
right?
But they've only come out with 2 albums since then, and each one sounds very different. But they really worked those into a cohesive live show with a lot of great visuals, kind of trippy, kind of psychedelic, as you would imagine. Playing a lot of, expected tracks. They played Time to Pretend, one of my all-time favorite songs. Love that song. They played Youth, they played Kids, they played, started with some stuff from their newest album, their self-titled album from a few years back. And they also...
Any hints of a new album?
Was what I was going to get to. They played a couple new tracks. And I guess they have a new album coming out sometime this fall, I believe.
Nice.
So we can look forward to new music from them. And once again, it sounded different. Now, with MGMT, they're a band that I feel like a lot of their sound comes out in the studio.
Right.
It depends on how they're choosing to record and represent the songs in that format. So, I mentioned that live, their stuff comes together to sound very cohesive. So it might have even been a little bit misleading. The new songs that they played, depending on how they're producing and recording it, could sound very different. But what I heard, I really liked. It sounded to me a little less dark and weird than their self-titled album, their most recent one. Going back to maybe a little bit more pop melody, but still with plenty of kind of weird electronics driving things. So I'll be really interested to listen to that one.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah, so once again, a good show. I'll say this about MGMT, and really it applies to the Shins, the next day's headliner, which I'll get to in a minute here. But both are bands that I like a lot, and I'm familiar with their work. But I kind of realized when seeing them, like, they're not bands that emotionally, at the core of who I am as a music listener, really have any defining work for me. I mentioned Time to Pretend is one of my favorite songs, and it is. And that's about the extent of it. I don't think that either band has any albums on my favorite albums list. They're just bands that I consistently enjoy and respect a lot.
Sure.
So I find when I'm seeing a concert like that, it's fun to just see how they do, and in a way, I'm never going to be let down,
Sure.
right? Because I don't have expectations to be blown away. But it can only matter to me as much as the music matters
You're
to me.
saying Oracular Spectacular is not on your favorite albums list?
It's not.
Wow.
It's
certainly on mine.
Yeah, I know you like that one a bit more than me. For me, it's an album that has some really great highlights, but I never come back to it as an album. I just don't. I always enjoy it when it's on, though.
Got it on vinyl?
No, I don't. I know you do.
One of the first I bought.
Yeah, I know. And I remember listening to it at your place, and it sounded great. But if I ever see it for a good price, I'll probably get it. But they're not exactly a priority for me. So MGMT closing out the first night of 8035, definitely good. Come back the next day, and things start a little bit earlier on day 2 of the festival. So we started with Bad Bad Hats.
Midway between the end and the start, I cried like a baby, I tore you apart.
Which is another band from the Minneapolis area, and they are once again kind of indie rock, pop rock, just a very guitar, bass, and drums focused band. Female vocalist, and she is absolutely the most adorably awkward person I have ever seen on stage. Their songs were good. It's got kind of, like I said, like kind of a twee indie pop rock, very confessional lyrics and very relatable. But the stage banter just melted you. You just wanted to go give her a hug. She seemed so uncomfortable, but so like inviting at the same time. And it really created this whole persona for the band and their music that was a lot of fun to watch. So great performance, good songs. But I just couldn't get the lead vocalist out of my mind. She was just adorable, just great. So from there, we went on to Hop Along on the main stage.
She just didn't have the scratch to keep you in that sorry hole.
This is another one kind of similar to what I mentioned about Bully, another female-fronted, kind of grungy, gritty, just old-school rock band. But a little bit more of a singer-songwriter approach, because that's the roots of the band. The lead vocalist, she started as kind of a solo act, so you can tell that in those songs there's a much more personal, intimate aspect to it. But man, I loved watching her perform. She had such control over her voice, worked well with the band. For taking it from that kind of solo approach to a full band sound, you can tell that she got some guys that she works really well with. So that's a band I'm not overly familiar with, but I had several friends of mine at the festival tell me that was, a highlight for them when they were looking forward to. So when I went and saw them, I certainly was not disappointed. From there, going back to the free stage, we saw a band, another ridiculous band name. This band is called A Giant Dog.
Oh,
yeah.
Like Clifford?
Yeah. I guess they couldn't just go with like St. Bernard or something like that.
My son loves Clifford.
Clifford.
He would have loved the band, obviously.
Clifford would have even been a good band name.
It would have been a better band name.
I guess they wanted to keep it more general. It's just A Giant Dog.
Do they have like an album or something? Temple of the Giant Dog? I'm just here for the jokes. I think the really shitty jokes.
Yeah, I think Eddie Vedder was featured on it. A giant. So I'll give them this. Their drummer and
another great opportunity for a stage show.
Right. That's what I was going to say. Their drummer and one of their guitarists were pretty shaggy dudes.
Oh.
They had some big flowing locks going. So that was about as close to having a giant dog on the stage as you could get.
They refer to each other as dog. Hey, dog.
I didn't hear it.
You didn't?
But they had a female vocalist who ton of energy.
Seems like a lot of female vocalists.
I love it. I love it, man. There's this whole, rock.
Does that say something about James Mercer?
Right. What? What are you implying?
That he's a female vocalist.
Oh.
I'm calling him a girl. It's not that deep of a joke. It's like you're looking for like some deeper meaning in my really terrible jokes.
I don't know.
I'm trying to just a petty insult to some dude I've never met who potentially ruined one of my favorite bands.
What? How did he ruin one of your favorite bands?
I mean, Shin's last two albums haven't been that great.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's fair.
You can cut all that out, though.
We'll see. We'll see. But the singer for A Giant Dog was really great. Lots of energy. Goes out there in just like this skin tight, shiny green outfit, and just jumps around the stage, just barking. No, No, I have to joke at the band name, but in all reality, they were a good band. Another one where, in a festival environment, the songs didn't really grip me, but the performance was energetic enough. There was enough melody there and enough attitude, and those two elements combined, definitely enough for me to be interested in checking them out further. After them, we saw Diarrhea Planet. Kind of, modern punk and indie rock act. And they had, 5-person band, 3 guitar attack, taking turns on vocals, a lot of group vocals as you'll get in some of that more rowdy, upbeat punk kind of music. And there's not much more to say about them than that. They're no nonsense. They get up, they play their songs, they play them well, they jump around the stage, they have a hoot of a time. Not much more to say. It's kind of what you'd expect from a band in that genre, I would say. After them, we saw Chicano Batman.
But you can't control how I feel, no way.
Who put out an album earlier this year, if you recall. And wow, they really impress me. They have this whole image to them built out where they've got their lead vocalist playing keyboard, then they have a guitarist, bass player, and drummer, all 4 of whom were wearing these nice, matching suits or blazers. I guess I don't recall, exactly what style they were in, but they were dressed up. They looked good. They had a couple of female backup vocalists, and it just brought this whole style and swagger. It felt like a more modern indie rock take on some guys rocking a smoky lounge, but really, I say lounge, but their music is far more upbeat than that. And whereas their album, I felt like was actually produced a little bit thin for my taste, live, all of that comes out in the wash when you're listening to it over the big speakers, with the bass thumping, the drums moving. I thought they did a really good job. They put on a very eclectic show. Their music just incorporates a lot of different styles into it, so it's one that really never gets dull.
Probably really great for a live scene.
It was, yeah, and that the stage was packed for them too, which was really cool to see because I heard a lot of buzz about them leading up to it. Some people were really excited to see that, and I'm like, good, because those guys, they deserve it. From there, unfortunately, Action Bronson had to cancel.
Ooh.
Maybe I should research this, but all I heard was just circumstances beyond his control. He had to cancel, so Des Moines Favorites, the Maytags, came in and played, just a rock band from around Des Moines. I didn't really watch much of their set, but that's when I was watching Chicano Batman and Diarrhea Planet, and then we went back to the main stage for the Shins, the closing of Saturday night and the last act of the festival.
Now, they had a new album this year.
They had a new album this year, Heartworms, and they did play some tracks from that, which I really liked.
Which, in fairness, I liked significantly better than Port of Morrow.
Yeah, it's a pretty good album, but I'd agree with you. I think it's a step down from their first 3, pretty clearly, at least in my opinion. But this is another case where, I always mention with live bands, when they're playing songs from across a varied discography, you don't get those production inconsistencies in a live show. And I think that sometimes can really hurt a band, and sometimes it can really favor them. And for the Shins, I think it worked in their favor, because Heartworms was one where I mentioned during our recap of it, Jake, when we included it in our album wrap-up, that it felt a little bit more like James Mercer just tinkering around by himself. Mm-hmm. Everything felt a little more synthesized. I couldn't quite visualize when I'm listening to the new Shins album what people are actually doing in the band to contribute to the sound, right? But live, I feel like it all came together, and they felt like much more of a rock band. You could even say that about some of their earlier stuff from Oh Inverted World and Shoots Too Narrow, where they sound like a little bit of a thin kind of indie rock band. Nothing too thick in the sound, not really like a lot of driving bass or thick guitars, usually just 1 or 2 layers that are produced to be kind of high end, right? But I'll tell you, on stage, they felt like more of a rock band. They were rocking out. There was a lot of movement. They started their set with Caring is Creepy, the first track from their first album, which is one of my favorite songs of theirs.
Lost, it's crashed, it's collapsed, some mass is broken up into bits in my world. Break the match.
And so right away, to me, it builds rapport with the audience, and for fans of theirs like me who favor their early stuff, to come out and start with a classic like that rather than playing like 3 songs from their new album that people don't care about as much. I think they really did a good job of tailoring the set to the fans. So, that was like I said about MGMT, another show that I didn't find myself swooning over, simply because the songs don't mean all that much to me, but they performed the hell out of them. They did a really good job. James Mercer had good presence. He seemed like a good front man, a good representative of the band, had some good banter with the audience, but just, a pretty straightforward, well-performed show. And that's kind of what I felt about the whole festival. In general, even compared to previous years, I've always enjoyed 8035. I felt like the quality of musical performance was top-notch this year. I really didn't see anything that I was like, well, these guys suck. Everyone was good at their performances. Some bands I cared about more than others, but it's good to just go to an event like this and not just be disappointed at all with any of the performance qualities. At that point, it's just kind of seasoned to taste. You go see what bands you want to see, and you have a good time.
That's awesome.
So
sounds like a great year for them.
Yeah, it was a good one. So we'll see what comes back with 8035 Music Festival number 11 in 2018, and hopefully we'll be able to go check that out as well.
I hope to see that festival grow.
Yeah,
in time. Maybe even see like a third night added someday. Obviously not anytime soon, but down the road. So Tom.
Yeah.
Over the next month, it's going to be tough to get together.
It is.
Unfortunately, I think this is our last podcast for a little while.
Okay.
But we're not closing the books.
Nope.
This thing is just on pause.
Mm-hmm.
Like any good cassette, you can just press pause and then play again, and that's what we're going to do because you're listening to this on cassette right now, I'm sure. We definitely want to keep the podcast going, and just rest assured we'll be back probably sometime this fall. Early October with our first podcast back, and we'll give a recap of everything that we missed while we were away, and then finish out the year strong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And honestly, we might even see once we get settled into things, see us be able to do some different stuff and pick back up on some fun deep dives and bigger conversations.
Thank you guys for your continued support and participation. Tom and I love all of your comments on our YouTube videos, your Facebook messages, and your emails to us. Your participation is what makes Velocities and Music possible. So as always, thank you for being awesome. I'm Jake.
I'm Tom.
We are Velocities and Music, moving music discussion forward.